No, you are the narcissist, Part 1. The issue about the state of awareness of our kind is a central piece of the puzzle. Victims struggle with the proposition that someone behaves in such a way as we do, yet does not see what they are doing. How can he not realize what he is doing? How can he not see that he is wrong? How can he not accept that I am right? I have the evidence in my hands. How can he not grasp that it is him, and not me, that is causing the problems? How can he not recognize that he is being selfish, hurtful, or abusive? How can someone not know that they are behaving in this manner? I dare say you have said one or more of those questions at some point. Our awareness of what we are also dovetails with your awareness of what we are. As I have pointed out previously, next to nobody spots our kind when we first entangle with you. Even if you have been ensnared by one of our kind already, you stand a good chance of being ensnared a second time. Often the realization as to what has happened to you may not take place for many years after the event or once the discard has taken place. You may realize that you have been entangled by a narcissist during the devaluation, or more likely when we return looking to effect a post-discard or post-escape hoover. Almost without exception, once you have realized who you have become entangled with, you have the overwhelming desire to tell us that you know what we are. It is a moment of triumph, surely. You have been advised by an outside influence, or you have read extensively, and so many of our behaviors match with that of the narcissist. You have had your aha moment, and whilst your head may still be swimming from the experience, your heart pulled all over the place, and so many questions remain unanswered, you now know what we are. You have the knowledge, and you are going to unmask us by telling us straight that you know, and you are going to tell us direct what we are. It is time for you to strike a long overdue blow back at us. Thus, armed with this knowledge, what can you expect to happen? As you would expect, the response of the narcissist depends on which type you have become involved with. Let us begin with the lesser narcissist. The lesser does not know what he is. He acts through instinct, reaction, and knee-jerk responses. If you tell a lesser that he is a narcissist, chances are he may not even understand what you mean. If you have expressed this knowledge in a fuel-free fashion, if he does not understand what one is, you would most likely be met with the ignition of his fury and comments such as, "Why are you using fancy words all of a sudden?" Or, "What are you using dictionary words for? Are you trying to make out that you are better than me?" His inability to understand what you mean will be perceived by him as a criticism of him. He will feel wounded, and thus his fury will be ignited. Lacking much in the way of control, he will lash out at you, as he instinctively seeks fuel for the purpose of healing his wound. He does not know that this is what is happening, nor does he understand his reaction, but this is what will happen. If you happen to have gained your awareness from a book, and you use that to justify the label, expect that book to be torn in half or thrown on a fire as a knee-jerk response. If the lesser has some understanding of what a narcissist is, he will again only see it as criticism. Like many, he will consider the label to only mean that he loves himself. You can expect responses such as, "Are you saying I love myself? Well, I guess I have to, because you don't anymore, do you? I love myself, you have some cheek. Have you seen the way you go on, preening yourself and swanning around?" The lesser will immediately deflect this perceived criticism by turning the position around and engaging in blame shifting against you. He will seize on any evidence to hand which shows that you are the self-loving one and not him. If you have recently bought some new clothing, you can expect that to be brought up, and you are challenged for your spending habits. Said clothing is likely to be ripped or thrown away. If you have a range of potions and lotions which you use as part of your beauty regime, they will be seized on as evidence that you love yourself. They will be thrown around the room as the fury ignites, poured down the sink or smashed up. The lesser will not and cannot accept that he is a narcissist. He does not know what he is, and therefore has no awareness. If you attempt to educate him by explaining the various traits and behaviors of narcissism and link it to the way he behaves, if you do this in a neutral fashion, you will be heaping more criticism on him. Every point you make will be met with deflection and denial. If you say, "Look, I am just trying to get you to see that when you go out and disappear drinking, before coming home and demanding sex, you are not showing any thought for me, and you are ignoring my boundaries," that is the behavior of a narcissist. You will be met with, "Oh, so now I'm not allowed to go out drinking, am I?" Or, "I don't demand sex. You never give me any, as it is, and anyway you should. What's got into you these days? Getting it somewhere else, are we?" Or, "Boundaries? Narcissist? Who's been filling your head with this shit? I bet it was Lucy, wasn't it? She has never liked me." As the ignited fury erupts, you will witness the paranoia, blame shifting, denial, projection, and deflection as the lesser avoids discussing the issue. It does not register with him at all. No matter how obvious it may seem to you, he cannot grasp that he can be at any fault. It may be plain as day to you. The narcissistic behavior matches exactly what he does, but for all your explaining, he will not accept it. Firstly, he will not do so because he does not know what he is. Therefore, he lacks the capacity to accept it. Secondly, even if he could, he will not, because of the defense mechanism that the lesser has, and indeed all narcissists have, namely that we are not accountable. The denial and deflection will continue until you show signs of exasperation, upset, or anger. When this fuel appears, this will assist the lesser in healing the wounds that he has suffered, and therefore he will instinctively be looking to push you to providing him with fuel through his responses. If your questioning persists and is done in a neutral manner, he will be forced to lash out. Of course, you will be blamed for this, which will result in verbal violence, destruction of property, and physical violence as well. The lesser's paranoia will convince him that you are trying to catch him out in a way which he does not understand, nor can he, and all he knows is that he feels a sense of considerable discomfort. He does not know that this is caused by the failure to provide fuel. He does not know that this is the wounding caused by your repeated criticisms. He will instinctively need to protect himself, and this means getting fuel. He needs to head off your oh-so-clever comments, hence the denial and deflection. But he cannot control the ignited fury, which arises in order to seek out the necessary fuel. If you persist with pointing out what he is, and there is no fuel provision, he will evade you as he goes in search of fuel from someone else, and in order to get away from you as the source of his annoyance. A lesser is unlikely to accuse you of being a narcissist because he has no real understanding of what you are referring to. What he will do, however, is throw back at you the constituent parts which you identify as narcissistic behaviours at you. This is to defend himself from the criticism attached with this. This is to defend himself because he cannot be accountable for any kind of failure or weakness. This is done as a reaction to try to cause you to react to these allegations so that you provide him with fuel. You end up justifying that you are not the narcissist. Thus, he is, through instinct rather than calculated design, able to halt the wounding attack from you and gain fuel into the bargain. As you project about how you do not love yourself, that you care about him and other people, that you recognize boundaries and so forth, you will never ever convince a lesser narcissist that he is actually one. He just cannot comprehend it. That is why, although his behaviors match those of our kind, he cannot see it. He has no insight whatsoever. All you will do is cause him to defend himself, have his fury ignited, and ultimately cause him to lash out at you. Do not waste your time trying to convince him. You will not. If you want to wound him, tell him, but then withdraw. Otherwise you will find yourself on the receiving end of some savage, ignited fury.